I'm here this morning at Seeker North East headquarters in Team Valley for Construction Alliance North East Building Business Resilience event.
Just very briefly, CAN is made up of the National Federation of Builders, Seeker, who is officers, the Federation of Master Builders, and also a regional organisation, the Northern Counties Builders Federation, who were instrumental in putting CAN together. We've been around about 8 years now, so you may have heard of us, you may not, but we've sort of pulled this event together, if you like. Welcome also to our two speakers, James Lumb of Interpath Advisory and Jane Garvin of Ward Hadaway. James more coming from the sort of practical commercial sort of side of the issue we're tackling, and Jane giving the legal perspective, which is very, very important as well. I mean, this is a bit of it's not a subject everyone wants to talk about, I guess, but believe me, it's one that needs to be tackled head on. I know that, so I'm glad everyone's come along.
I'm now joined by James Lumb from Interpath. That was really fascinating, James. What tips would you have for businesses?
Yeah, so businesses in the construction sector have got a fundamental challenge, which is that it's really hard to understand performance in construction along the line. So how cash is doing and how profitability doing only really unravels as projects are completed. So it's a really good question, and it's a really hard answer, because the answer is it's quite difficult to do. So the sorts of tips we talked about today were looking out for businesses that seem to be taking on work too cheaply, and perhaps that's an indication that they're trying to drive cash. Looking out for businesses that maybe are taking contracts that look a bit bigger than they could chew, because that promotes risk, which in turn, as the contract develops, can cause the balance sheet to become difficult. And also there's a whole network of rumours and market intelligence around the sector, which is interesting, but you just have to treat it in the right way, because it clearly, whilst everybody's interested in making sure the supply chain remains resilient, you have to just measure that properly. And the sort of financial metrics you can look at, like the accounts, are okay, but they've got some limitations. So can you have a conversation with your customer, understand those a bit better, perhaps look at a forecast, perhaps speak to a credit insurance broker, for example. So it's not an easy answer, I'm afraid, Kieran.
Sorry. I know it's a complicated subject, but the talk was fascinating, and there was a lot of tips there for businesses. So any you can give us are fantastic.
No, well, indeed, and I couldn't even start to understand the sort of complexities of a construction project, but fundamentally it's about risk, really, and that risk plays out over time. So what I'm looking for when I'm advising clients in that space is, do we really understand our own project's profitability, and how do we get to that? So that means, where's my profit information coming from, where's my cash information coming from, quantity surveyors, project managers, etc., and how sustainable it is. And that underlies everything in this sector, I think.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
I'm now joined by Jane Garvin from Ward Hadaway. Thank you for that talk. It was really fascinating. Thank you for all the tips on directors' duties. I've got a question for you, if that's okay. What areas are businesses finding most challenging, and how can they adjust these practices?
Well, from a legal perspective, I think the big thing whenever a company is in financial difficulty is just making sure that sufficient weight has been given to the interests of creditors. And I think across the construction sector in particular, a lot of businesses are faced with issues around how to deal perhaps with historic claims, particularly as a result of various building safety and cladding type of issues. And it's about how businesses take that into account in the decision-making process to make sure that if the worst was ultimately to happen, it doesn't create an issue for the directors personally.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm now joined by Ken Parkin from Construction Alliance North East. That was a fascinating event, Ken. Can you just outline why you brought SMEs from around the region together today?
Yeah, certainly. CAN represents regional SME contractors in the North East, and we thought this was a sort of difficult subject, really. Administrations and insolvency were certainly one we think needs tackling head on, and what we're hoping to get out of it is for SMEs to learn and understand what they can do if they get into financial difficulties. Hopefully they won't, but construction is a risky business, so yeah, we really think it's a good thing to try and get regional SMEs to understand most of their business is day to day, hammer and tongue, and not perhaps sitting back and thinking about things. So we thought it was a good idea, and I thought we had two excellent speakers, James Lumb and Jane Garvin, and if one person in that room learned one thing which helps them, that's been a success to us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ken.